Good morning, everyone. June 22nd. Do you believe it? Welcome. Good to see everybody's face. So today, we're going to talk about untwisting our thinking. And the podcasts that we have been engaged in for the last probably 6 were about identifying where those twists are and recognizing them when they start to crop up, not when they've got a royal great hold over you. All right, by that time, they're probably winning the fight. So see it coming. All right. So who tried any of the tools that we talked about last week? And what was your experience with them? I want to see this chat box light up. All right. Did anybody try the one new thing? That was one of the suggestions. Pick one thing, try it. Okay, Denise, do you want to unmute and just tell us what you chose, if you want to, and what your experience with it was?
I have a work area that's all very, very cluttered, and also a kind of tower drawer system. So I just thought, okay, I'm just going to take all, and with stuff cluttered up in them, and I took all the drawers out, set all the drawers out. It's about 8 drawers, set them out, and began sort of organizing what was in the drawers and what was cluttering up my workspace. It's kind of the same sort of stuff.
Good for you. One thing at a time.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
It's still laid out, but it's beginning to make clear some space.
It's also making yourself happy with the reduced expectation that it's enough to do one drawer at a time and get it the way you want it to be, so long as you're not creating a health or safety hazard, like blocking a doorway or putting it near a heat source. All right. Part of the management of it is not setting that expectation that the whole thing has to be done before it's good enough. And then keeping yourself on that regulated, okay, I keep going. Here's my work time period. And yeah, no, I want to do something else. No, I'm doing this before. And even compressing that. All right. And then making yourself satisfied with it, reassuring yourself, no, that's what I said. I have a plan. That is what I said I would do today. And that's what I've done. It is enough. All right. And it is the little things we do that are part of a bigger plan. And we do them regularly, the little things regularly, that I swear will get you to where you want to be and keep you there. All right. How did you find it affected your feelings about being prepared for other things or being capable with other things?
I think I sort of felt like working through this, I felt I could carry it forward into the next thing. So I feel quite positive about it. Makes me feel good when I see it happen.
Yeah, like you've accomplished something. Yeah. Here's a little caveat that I want to give you. So generally, that making that progress does make a person feel good. All right. In fact, sometimes it's a good thing, but sometimes you kind of get into your rhythm. All right. And you want to continue. All right. In fact, you're on a roll and you want to continue. I honestly say, until you do this habitually every single day, all right, no sweat, no struggling with yourself, keep yourself to somewhere between a definite 15 minutes, all right, and no more than a half hour. And if you feel that you are on a roll and it is a positive, go another 15 minutes. All right. And stop. It may sound like a contradiction, but here's the reason for that. We want to return to things that left us feeling successful and left us feeling positive. And if we push through that I'm on a roll sensation, and we do complete much more than we thought, but we make it a drudge. When we're finished and we sit down, our takeaway message to all parts of ourselves is, whew, we're not going back to that. The highest probability is we will not repeat that, because the next time we think of it, you know what we're going to think of? Yeah, I did complete. Oh, yeah, but I don't have that much steam in the tank. Where if you always end with some steam, some good positive steam in the tank that you devote to something else that adds quality to your life, fun, joy, play, learning, growing, developing human being stuff. All right, getting better at something, practicing something that's exciting and rewarding to you, that's what you will remember. And instead you will say to yourself, come on, getting started is the hardest part. You know you can do 15 minutes. All right, you can do practically anything for 15 minutes, and it's okay to stop. The other thing too is when we get an external cue, like setting a timer, all right, that when that timer goes off, it's going to be like I'm out of jail. You know that feeling at the end of school term when the doors open, the bells ring to let you out, and you know the whole summer is yours? That's the way it feels when that bell goes off. All right, woo, done. Yay. Now it's me time. And that I want you to experience that. I want you to give yourself that. Those are the feelings that will overcome feeling overwhelmed and incapacitated. So, did you have to slow down at all, Denise, in order to do it?
I did, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had to sort of stop and because organizing it and doing it, I had to kind of feel my way through it. How did I want it to be? It was all sorts of different kind of art supplies and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's stuff I want to use. So I have an attachment to it, a healthy attachment to it.
And a commitment to it too. Yeah. This is something that's important to me. I'm going to use it, and I want to be able to find it, access it, and know when I'm running short.
Yeah.
In advance of, my golly, I need it now. Okay. All right. Was there any resistance? Anybody else? We'll open the floor a bit. Who else tried one new thing? Leslie, do you want to unmute yourself? When you tried the thing, what was it? And did you feel any resistance? And where did you feel that resistance?
Okay, I decided to never go to bed with anything in the sink. And there's always resistance. But because I had let it become such an enormous chore, I realized that if during the day, if I used a spoon and I washed it then, it wasn't such a huge deal at the end of the day.
I know.
Plus which, if I got up in the morning and cleared out the dish rack, then it was easier to put stuff into it during the day. So it was like, there was like this whole series of events. And
what did you do with the resistance? What did you do differently or say differently to yourself? Because it is these little things. There's no magic. There is no medication. There is no mystery. It is the compilation of these little things.
Well, one of the things I said to myself was there is no later.
Oh, hugs.
I take
Hugs.
it.
Hugs.
Yeah, there is no later. You know, I wouldn't put it down and say I'll do it later. I would hold it and say there is no later.
Later never comes. Yeah.
Later never comes.
Yeah.
And then I would ask myself, I would Elena-size myself. What do I need? I mean, that's so hard for me. It's for years I never asked myself that. What do I need? I need to go to bed at night. Well, even more importantly, I need to wake up in the morning with a clean and empty sink.
Uh-huh.
It's a symbol of success.
Yeah. And hope too, because when today belongs to you, not to the undone chores from yesterday that probably one at a time could have been at least chipped away at, you own today. Today is an optimistic thing that belongs to you.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can keep up with, most of the time, no day's perfect, but you can keep up with the poor Mervette's having a hard time getting in there. You can keep up with whatever's going to happen today.
Mhm.
All right. It doesn't become a mountain.
No, it reinforces my ability to do this.
And I say that to myself, don't put it down. I'm tempted. I don't hoard, but I'm tempted, put it down just for now. And I say to myself 25 times a day easily, Elaine, just do it now. It's
Mhm.
never going to get easier. Walk that extra 5 steps and put the darn thing away. Walk over and put it in the garbage. Walk over and put it in recycling. Walk over and rinse the darn thing and put it back. Just do it.
Yes, until that becomes your habit. Not I'll do
Well,
it
and you
later.
know what? You
Just do
become
my
your own voice, not because when you're defeating yourself, when you're giving yourself those other messages, those are defeatist messages. Oh, I don't feel like it. All
Mhm.
right. Now, no day's perfect. No situation is perfect. When you're doing this, all right, sometimes, you've got COVID. You're having the worst day of your life. All right. You really are running on empty. You misjudge something and you're running on empty, emotionally, physically, whatever. I do believe that every room, because life isn't perfect, every room should have one acceptable drop zone.
Mhm.
All right. That drop zone has very specific, very definite criteria. It can't be in the way. It can't be something that will shame you or embarrass you in its location. It must be a defined, contained space. And when that space is filled, all right, you have a date with that. Example, a chair. So when you put things on a chair, all right, in your bedroom, for instance, or some other defined space, when that chair has been used, you do one of two things. When it's falling over the edges and the chair's getting tippy, now is the time to do it. Or like Leslie, which I think is a wiser choice, long term, you give yourself a date with it. Yes, you put it down in the moment, perhaps, but you have a definite date with it. And that date is meaningful to you because you gave yourself your word. And you know what the consequence will be of not keeping your word. What is the consequence of not keeping your word in any other relationship? Why would it be any different in you giving yourself your own word? You make a deal with yourself. Why would that be any different? It isn't. You'll feel badly about yourself. The person you don't keep your word to will feel badly. That is just a function of not keeping your word, right? You're worth your word, folks. You're worth it. So if you didn't try one new thing, please, I'm inviting you to try one new thing. Anybody try, I'm excited about this one. Anybody try the visioning board? And what was on your visioning board? Remember, this is where I get excited. Remember I introduced you to George last week? George is a gorilla who is the wallpaper on my phone. A great big mountain gorilla. Well, I've been when I showed him to you last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, it kind of woke me up and I thought, George, how long have you and I been friends? All right. How long have you been a wish? How long have you been a bucket list wish? It's probably been 5 or 6 years that George has been the screen on my cell phone. Not because I think the picture is particularly wonderful, but it reminds me of something that I really, really, really want to do. So I decided to get off my fanny, and I have an airplane ticket, KLM, to Uganda. I am flying out the 27th of December, and I am coming back somewhere around the 8th of January, and I'm going to have done 1 chimp trek and 3 interior mountain gorilla treks. And I've signed the contract and I've sent them the deposit. I am locked in. All right. Now, 6 years ago, I was in slightly different physical shape. I hadn't broken my ankle twice, for instance. Okay. And so I asked myself, this is not and it's not about me. It's about give yourself permission to be honest with yourself about what do you need. And if you can't do it, like my first vision was, I'm going to do this hardcore. I am going to be in there moving the underbrush. I'm going to be whatever. All right. It's me, my hiking boots, and the gorillas. Get out of my way. Okay. Well, that was 6 years ago. So I've broken my left ankle twice in that time. And so I thought, okay, is it important to dream this, Elaine, or is it important to do this? And I thought, it's important to do this in a way that I have some respect for myself. All right. And for the gorillas. So I decided I need a backup plan. Like seriously, I need a backup plan because those little devils may not be 1 or 2 hours away. All right. They may be, just trying to find this for you. They may be 6 hours away when you're trekking in. All right. Well, I don't know about you, but hauling my sorry butt through the underbrush for 6 hours there, which means 6 hours back. All right. I want to die with the mountain gorillas, save myself the trip back. So I thought, what do you need? So I asked them, what is there in the way? Now, I originally thought I will have 4 porters, 2 of them resting and the other 2 holding both sides of my arms, helping me through the underbrush. They had a slightly different solution. This is their solution. These are sedan chairs. And so it's still important to me that if these poor little guys, who are probably not as big as I am, are going to help me, that I don't have to kill them in the process. So I have undertaken that before I leave, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. It's only fair. Okay, it's only fair not to have kill somebody trying to help you make a dream come true. So that was me taking responsibility. The other thing I undertook with myself was, you're going to walk until you're half dead, girl. And then they'll be dragging the chair under their arm. Okay. And only when you need it, for as long as you need it to complete this dream, are you going to ask them to help you. Do you see where taking responsibility for yourself and making these things come true is a huge part of you, this being your dream or your goal? So that visioning board, I had a very simple visioning board. One huge mountain gorilla that every time I picked up a message, I had to look at. All right. And thank you for the opportunity to bring it up in a podcast, because that was like a wake up moment. Like, how long is this going to go on? Okay. Because you're getting younger, right? Okay. Like, yeah, you're getting younger. No, this is the time to do it. Either do it or forget it. And I wasn't prepared to forget it. So what's on your visioning board, and how prominently are you putting it right in your face every day, so that you look at it and think, is this a real goal? Taking pictures, for instance, of the areas of your home that you're not pleased with, you're not satisfied with. All right. And making those maybe the screen on something that you have to look at. Taking those pictures and maybe putting them on the fridge, so that when you look at them, you go, yeah, no, you're next. Yes, I am committed to you doing it. All right. So let me just look here. Did anybody discover, as they were setting this goal, this one new thing, or any of the other tools, that they discovered in their own mind they'd made some misconceptions? They had either romanticized it, or they had underestimated how long it would take, how difficult. San, can you unmute yourself and talk to that a bit? Can you unmute?
Yes, thanks, Elaine. Yes, I definitely, first of all, underestimated totally. And I also, not just the time factor, but my emotional and mental focus capabilities. I learned a lot about myself, that in my mind, I have a very idealistic opinion of my capabilities. In reality, puts a lot of different layers on that. It could be physically, how am I feeling, emotionally, and also just, I also realized I expect myself to always do it perfectly and by myself. So the one thing that I did differently is I realized that the resistance that I'm experiencing is a wall I put up myself. And
How
that
do you
is
put that wall up?
because I don't ask for help from people that I can trust. And so I took a huge leap of faith last week. I called my family in the States and I said, I'm talking specifically, some of you may have heard me referencing, I have these 2 storage lockers that have the remaining contents from when I had to sell my parents' former home. There's mostly things there from my mother and from that side of the family. And you said something to me, you said, you know, she wouldn't want you to be the curator of her things. And I realized that's exactly the way I'm going into this, but I layered that with the pride and the self-expectation. I'm going to do all this and I'm going to do it perfectly and minimize it. And the last time I went there, I opened the door, rolled it up, and I just broke into tears because I had been working on it so long and the mountain was still there. So I said a few choice words to myself. It was on the Thursday after our Wednesday Zoom. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to swallow my pride and I'm going to call my brother and my sister-in-law. And I was very nervous. I was very emotional, and without hesitation, sorry, I just have to decline this. And without hesitation, they said, yes, absolutely. We will fly up. These are the dates.
Whoa, good
works
for
for you.
you.
And my brother even said, had a sense of humor. He said, you realize you're inviting Attila the Hun with no emotions to come and help you with this, right? And I said, Well, that's why I invited both of you, because I need some of that. But I
She's your
also need a
fail-safe.
female voice who understands what it's like to lose a mom and that. So I went out to the storage unit yesterday, all of a sudden now with a different perspective. Some of that weight is off my shoulders. And I found just having that backup,
Mhm.
when I rolled up that door this time, I thought, what are 3 containers that I think I could just take either home and work on myself or just drop right off at the Value Village? And I just said, just 3 containers, that's it. And I couldn't do that before. So this was a huge change for me. And I have a really strong feeling it's not going to be easy, but the momentum will be
Mhm.
sustainable.
Mhm. I'm going to give you a word of advice on doing that, okay?
Yeah.
So because the relevant words were, you understand I have absolutely no emotional, but you do. You're very at different ends of that spectrum.
Very,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And so, so that you don't overly challenge the relationship and end up feeling really negative toward your brother, all right, and those feelings continue, I'm going to ask you to sit down without looking at, like, don't be at the storage unit, and make a list. You've had time to kind of look at the boxes, and you've got them organized by types and that kind of thing. Make a list of the things that are the absolute most important, the 1, 2, 3s for you. All right. And in the search for what can go and emptying the storage unit, when those, you make a deal with him, you don't make a deal, you inform him. All right. That when we find these things, there is no choice. They are coming with me. All right. Because among those things, I don't want to see you lose the few things that are so important to you in the haste and the appreciation of the help you're going to get to unload the buildup. And there's a 95 to 99% probability, all right, that there will be things that are really important to you, but probably you already, if you make a deliberate effort to list them, you already know pretty much what those are. All right. And so don't be so grateful that you get trampled.
Yes.
Okay, because he won't mean to do that. Nobody who cares about another individual will mean to do that. But that loss, that can be very needlessly traumatic and
Yes.
damaging. All right.
Thank you.
So
That's a
make
good
that
idea to
list.
make myself a
Make that
list.
list. Yeah.
Yeah.
And say, this is what we're looking for. These come with me. No questions. Don't anybody even say a word. It's decided. All right. But you've made that list ahead of time. No, it's different from doing it as you're opening boxes and things, because the temptation and the highest probability there is you're going to see something is going, oh yeah, and then you'll be down memory lane and you'll be cued and triggered. If those things were really, really, really a 1, 2, 3, 95% of them you already know in your head.
Mhm.
All right, I'm looking for mom's watch. I'm looking for I'm looking for. There was something in that thing I'm looking for.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a great tool. Thank you, Elaine.
Yeah, no, you've got to respect yourself and the fact that you're so grateful for the help and you've overcome an enormous hurdle asking for it and arranging it. I don't want to see you get trampled out of gratitude.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I want to highlight now the 15, and these are really, really user-friendly tools. I take no credit for them. They're part of a well-established clinical process that clinicians use, but you don't need to be a clinician to use them for yourself. So I want to bring them to you. I want to offer them to you. And if anybody really wants the written version of it, I'm sure that David Burns won't mind. David, if you're out there, I can scan the page. I think having his workbook, and I told you how to get it really inexpensively on a Libris Books or ABC Books. All right, his workbook, 10 Days to Self-Esteem, is worth its sheer clinical genius. And it's a self-help book. I used to give a copy to every client that I worked with. I would buy it and give it to them. Now I'm doing so much Zoom, that's really hard to do, but I got it for $4.95. I got like hundreds of them, okay, for like $4.95. And I wasn't ordering them hundreds at a time. I might have been ordering 6 at a time. All right. So it won't be far off that. So I want to highlight these 15 user-friendly things. All right. And they are expressly designed to help you get under depression, that disengagement that we go through when we're in a depressive state. It doesn't have to be a clinical depression, because that feeling of being overwhelmed really undermines our self-esteem and our confidence in ourselves, our pride in ourselves, our satisfaction in ourselves. And then, of course, we always, when we're down, we are vulnerable to the voices on the committee, right? And they're going to reinforce, yeah, you really are lazy. Yeah, no, that wouldn't be happening if you were da 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 da. All right. And it's hard to turn those voices off when we don't feel good enough about ourselves. So the first thing is to, and you write this down, identify the distortions in our thinking. And when we're in not the best mindset, on my worst day, okay, I'm along with you. There's no human being who is exempt from this. So journaling and reviewing the journal, either by recording it or by writing it down. All right. And then later on reviewing it when you're in a different mindset. You can see the distortions. When the stress shifts or when you're in a better mindset, you can spot the ways that you've kind of put a little kink in things. And you're probably going to be saying something to yourself like, really? Is that really the truth? Is that really the truth? All right. And why do you do it? You do it because I think it was last week we covered the 11 distorted or problematic thinking styles. And I can review those with you if you want. I may post them actually on the website so that you can go there and see them. So, we're talking about all or nothing thinking. We're talking about magnifying things because of the way they feel. And we treat that like reality. I really can't do anything. I'm whatever, mentally exhausted. We are minimizing as well, setting yourself up for failure by minimizing. All right. Double standard. San gave us a really good example of that. Everybody else can ask for help, but I shouldn't have to. All right. But I shouldn't have to. There are 11 of them. Okay. So the second thing, the second strategy for unkinking is to try the straightforward approach. All right. Why? Why do you do it? Because it is possible. Sorry, that darn phone. Okay. When you ask yourself, really? When I tell myself that, how true is it? Particularly if I'm overwhelming myself with something, with a thought. All right. Because the truth is, at the worst moments, there are positives that exist at the same time. In the best and the worst moments, that's the balance of life. And we get ourselves in a habit of focusing just on the negative, the thing that we believe is holding us back. And we fail to look for actively what the positive is. So do a little square. Hold on. Do a little square like this. All right? A little square like this. And here is, what do I gain by this thought? What does it cost me? What do I gain by not having this thought? And what does it cost me by not having this thought? And you'll be surprised at how you can see the upside of whatever it is that is challenging you. All right? Okay. And then what I would suggest you do is substitute for whatever the negative thought is. So for instance, 6 years of looking at George, and the positive thought was, yeah, sometime I'll do that. Yep, that's still on the list. And the negative thought was, no, not right now. This is more important. That's more important. This is more important. That's more important. Well, very, very few things changed. Yes, there, as most of you know, yes, there was a period of a few years, but not 6 years, of where I was concerned about my sister's health. All right. And so I wouldn't have wanted to be that far away. I would have wanted to use some of the funds I would put toward this to being able to fly out last minute if she needed help. But that's not 6 years. That went on longer than it can become a habit. And so a few weeks ago, I looked and I thought, well, there's this, that, and the other. But it's funny how when you ask yourself, really, while that's true, that thing that's holding you back is true, really, is it true enough to be the biggest factor? Does it have to be that true? All right. And in that way, you put it in a better perspective. And you also make those things that are holding you back, when you insist on finding the positive. What is the other side here? Yeah, if I don't do that, I save the energy. But what is the consequence of that? And really, the consequence of that is bigger than what it would cost you to start putting a small, persistent dent in the thing, right? And when you start to do that, like Denise said, like San said, it's amazing how that sense of being overwhelmed and pleased with yourself really is a lift that you really deserve to give yourself. Okay. The other thing, the third of 15 techniques, is try the cost benefit. All right. What is the benefit of putting this down? What is the benefit of keeping this thing? Now, I'm not talking about the 1, 2, 3s, those things that are so important, always will be, always have been. All right. I'm talking about 4 to 10, those items. You like them, and in a perfect world, you'd keep them all if only you had the room and the time. And the 7, 8, 9, 10s, yeah, I'll get to those things. I'll just put those down. But they never leave. They never leave. All right. What is the cost of putting it down? What does it give you? And what does it give you to pay the consequence? What does it cost you? So you create almost like a ledger sheet. Yes. You know what? You can go and sit on Netflix. Yes, you can go and game. Yes, you can go and do something else. All right. That's what it gives you. What does it cost you? How long is the benefit of what it gives you? The reprieve, the distraction, the whatever. How long does that last? Compared to how long does the consequence last? Just, are you trying to solve it that way? No. What you're trying to do is to put whatever that barrier is in a better proportion. So it's not an overriding, overwhelming influence. You're just kind of putting it, sizing it right. All right. Because advantages and disadvantages will help you discover the negative thinking that you're engaging in and not looking at the positives of overcoming it. All right. Okay. It'll also, when you do that cost benefit, it will also help you understand if you have any habits or patterns of automatically defaulting to limiting beliefs. Right now, everybody who's here, all 42 of you, all right, I want you to consider what you believe to be your strongest limiting belief. And I want you to write that down for yourself right now. What is the single negative thing that limits you? That is the hardest thought or the hardest impulse to overcome? What is it? Is it keeping yourself so busy with other demands that you convince yourself that you're irreplaceable? You are only irreplaceable to yourself and the people who are the closest to you, whose lives will be forever changed. So if you aren't giving your spare time to them for a critical reason, you're kidding yourself. You're kidding yourself. All right. What is your strongest limiting belief? Right now, everybody, thumbs up if that limiting belief has anything to do with a voice that you're really susceptible to on the committee. A lot of hands up. Okay. Now here's a question for you. Is the person or people who own that voice belong to, are they still with you? Why are you bringing them into today? Why are you allowing those messages to be any part of your life today? They are gone. And those messages, if they were hurtful or critical or demeaning or minimized you in any way, rather than instructed you and taught you and reinforced your belief that you could overcome whatever it is, all right? They have no place in today, and they had no place. They were a function of how whatever was happening was affecting them. They have no place in today. So don't give them any part of today. I want you instead to picture yourself at the age that those messages or that treatment was coming. You were receiving it. And I want you to be your own parent right now. And I want you to tell that child what you would tell them for whatever the situation was. What would your advice be? What would your feedback be? And that's what I want you to say to yourself when you need support and the voices take over and start to distract or undermine. You be your own parent. All right, you be your own parent. Because when we don't challenge those things, we still, even when we're already more than good enough, we are still trying to overcome the punishing effects of those messages, and we don't deserve them. They have no place in today. There is no way that the context of your life today could be the same enough that those messages would be appropriate. Don't let those people, don't let those voices have any part of today. And what behavior do they prompt in you? All right. I want you to give that little person a hug, a virtual hug, and say, look, I know you can do it. You know what's expected. You know what's expected. All right. You know the right thing. Do your best. I know you can do it. And just keep saying. And if you have to say it out loud, say it out loud. All right. All right. Now, fourth, I got myself in trouble with this earlier in the week, but I want to be clear. Our feelings are really important. All right. They are, because they are the sum total of how we're assessing how we're doing, how things are going. They're sort of the emotional feedback, but they aren't fact. It's not that they don't matter. They do matter. You need to respect your feelings, but you need not to always completely be guided by them. All right. They're the end product of your emotional response. All right. So they're chemically determined. Examine the evidence. I want you to start asking yourself when you feel something that's negative, how true is that? Okay, I feel that. I hear you. I feel that. But how true is it? All right. All the 6 years I was telling myself, oh, all right, some of the time, for a period of time. But you know what? It wasn't as true as it had to be. And I never stopped to ask myself, you know, if you do this, or if you buy that, or if you this, if you give, you know, this to so-and-so, and you're drawing your last breath, what's going to be really, really important to you? You deserve the things that are most important to you. You have to work for them, but where's the evidence? What is the evidence that whatever is overwhelming you or holding you back, what is the evidence that it has to be as much of a barrier as it feels? Because when we don't look at the evidence, we are not allowing ourselves to examine how truthful the negative thought is factually. All right. And we assume based on our feelings that it is. We work from some very negative assumptions. Don't overwhelm yourself with assumptions that aren't as big or as true as they feel. What's the evidence? Okay. And the evidence will be in the positives and negatives that surround that event. What are the advantages and disadvantages? What's the fifth? The fifth is try a survey method. All right. Now, this does not mean that everybody you ask gets a vote. But if you want some feedback, know how you feel, what you believe, and why, and what is the consequence of doing it, what is the consequence of not doing it. And then if you're still not sure enough, ask other people you know well, who know you well, and who you respect. You believe in them and they believe in you. Ask them, what their feedback would be, not what to do or not do. What is their feedback? I did that with my brother, who spent years and years and years in Kenya. All right. When I told him about the mountain gorilla trip, the first thing he said to me was, forget it. And this, yeah, I know. And the first thing I said to him was, I didn't ask you for your opinion. I was calling you to ask you for information about weather systems in Africa, because I don't want to give myself an undue challenge being in monsoon season. It's going to be, drenched, soaking wet, trying to get through the underbrush. It's going to be enough of a challenge. So, can you give me the information I'm asking you? It softened him a bit. Okay, good. All right, brothers will be brothers. Older brothers will be older brothers. All right, engineers who are older brothers will certainly be older brothers. He's one of the finest men I've ever known, but oh my gosh, he is an engineer. He is an engineer. Okay. Hey, Walt, if you listen to this, love you dearly, but you're an engineer. You think only like an engineer. Okay. What's the sixth thing? If all else fails, and I'm a big believer in this, take a little chunk of whatever it is that's challenging you and run an experiment, a tiny little segmented experiment. All right. So you really believe that that table can be cleared up in 15 minutes? Take 6 square inches of it and time yourself to completion. Run a little experiment. Don't set yourself up. Don't set yourself up. Okay, run a little experiment. How long can I hang up my clothes, stay on top of the wash, and well, it's not working, leaving it a week or two. Maybe if I put, yes, I'll use more water. Yes, I'll use more soap. Maybe if I put a load in every day and it just was a much smaller job, maybe I could get the sheets and the towels and the this and the that into the cupboard if I didn't feel I had to fold them. All right. You ever tried to fold 6 fitted sheets? That's like trying to drag a python out of, my gosh, those things, and they never end up looking right. I have adopted a new method that I offer you, and that is this and stuff it. All right, just stuff it. And when I go to the linen closet and I see little balls, I think, that's a fitted sheet. Yeah. Now, for my own anal retentiveness, the flat sheets, I get a lot of satisfaction out of folding those. All right, so so those would be the fitted sheet, and that would be the flat sheet. All right. Shortcuts are okay. Try and can you live with it? Can you live with it? All right. I will own up to maybe a tiny, tiny, tiny little piece of OCD. All right. You know what it's about? Who knows why? The way my towels are folded. Okay, they have to be in thirds, and then they have to be in halves, and then they have to be in halves again. However, I did run a little experiment thinking, okay, that's pretty rigid. That's pretty rigid. What if you just did it in quarters? I'm working on developing right now a comfort level with the fact that I'm going to fold them differently. Some I'm going to fold the way is very satisfying. And why? Because the little experiment is to give myself the challenge of living with that little less than they're the way they should be. I don't want that to get a jump on me. What do you need to set a little experiment for yourself about? What can you do differently and adapt? All right. Because it'll test. You know what? When I pull out that improperly folded towel, it's amazing how it dries me just as well. All right. As the properly folded towel. Oh, the proof of the pudding is in the test. What is the purpose of a towel? All right. The purpose of folding a towel is to get more towels into the cupboard, right? Get them all in the cupboard. Yeah. I hope. So really, Elaine? Really? You're going to demand that level? No, you're not. Because if you get to talk to these lovely people every Wednesday, you can't be fussing about how the towels are folded. Okay, you got to walk the talk when you have your own little itchy spots. Okay. The seventh, it's called the double standard technique. Why? Because talking to yourself in the same compassionate way that you might talk to a dear friend who's upset can help you be as kind and gentle and loving and accepting of yourself when you're not having your best day, when it didn't go according to plan, and you're worth getting back on track. So if you're not succeeding, be as kind, loving, accepting, and gentle as you would be if a dear friend was having the very problem you're having. All right? Don't have a double standard. Yes, but I have to do it this way, or I have to succeed at this level. Sometimes you will, and sometimes you won't. And you're as worthy on one day as you are on the other. Okay. Why wouldn't you give the best to yourself as well as to other people? All right. Why would you be ashamed of something that you're not succeeding at? All it means is you're probably not using a strategy in the right chunks that would work for you. All right. So don't judge yourself. Keep looking for the better way for you. And if you have to adapt anything that we talk about to make it work a little better, do it. Okay. The eighth thing, the pleasure predicting method. All right. Why? Why is it called that? Because if you can predict how satisfying activities will be anywhere, so how's it going to feel? You can do this on the negative too. How's it going to feel? And I do this with myself. Elaine, how's it going to feel if you do leave that? All right. If you do leave that, how's that going to feel? And for me, it's not going to feel very good because I talk to you folks about consistent, reliable self-regulation, right? That what we do the most is what we habituate and what becomes the easier to do. How's it going to feel if you start cutting corners and you don't have a date with yourself? This has to be done by, I'm not going to let it get any bigger because then it will feel insurmountable. And reverse is true as well. How's it going to feel when it's done? That's worth 15 minutes now and 15 minutes another time. Like Leslie said, getting out of bed in the morning and looking at the sink and going, oh, nothing's waiting for me. Yay! How's that going to feel? Well, you don't think that has an impact the night before? All right. You don't think that that has, what we tell ourselves makes a big difference. I don't know whether I ever told you the story about keeping my father late for work. He used to drive myself and my friends to school, and I was always the last one in the car. And he said, look, I'm the commanding officer. And he said, I can't be coming into work late if my staff aren't allowed to come in late? And you're the one reason I'm late. So he said, you need to get yourself out of bed when that alarm goes off. I know, I just can't get out of bed. I don't know what it is. He said, I'll tell you what it is. The night before, you're not making a contract with yourself. He said, you know how I do it? When I go to bed the night before, I tell myself, when that alarm goes, there is no second thought. Get out of bed. Get out of bed so fast, it's like the bed's on fire. If you give yourself the second thought, you're starting to undermine yourself. All right? You're starting to undermine yourself. It's a yeah, but. Watch the yeah, buts. All right? And focus on how great you're going to feel when even incrementally little chunks of what's holding you back are in better shape or are done. And gauge it, 0, 0 to 100. That'll also help you decide what's worth doing first, what's worth putting the best effort, your best energy into. The ninth strategy, try the vertical arrow technique. Why? Because when you draw a vertical arrow under your negative thought and you ask yourself, why would it be upsetting if that was true? All right. And you keep doing that. You can follow much deeper. Yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? Why would that be true? You can drill down a whole lot further on the patterns, not just a negative thought, but the patterns of negative thinking that you're most susceptible to. All right. And sometimes it's hard to figure those out because you're so busy feeling them. Try it. It works. It really works. All right. Okay. And where it probably will lead to, chances are thoughts, fears, and messages of others who influenced you. All right. It's probably those messages that you have voiced over. They've now become what you say to yourself. Those messages almost certainly are not appropriate to the context of life right now. They can't be. They just can't be. And what that also means is that if you don't do that, you are going to continue to give yourself bad advice based on those negative thinkings, those negative messages. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. Peel the lid off of them. Negative thinking. Why is that true? Why is that true? Why is that true? Why is that true? What is the evidence? 10. Try thinking in shades of gray. Nothing. There is nothing in this world that is black and white. All right? It just doesn't exist. Problems are never just black or white. Evaluate the shades of gray if it was a little less and make your best choice. If you can't do it, like San said, the ideal way, like Denise said, the ideal way, break it down into steps, shades of gray, and you will get there. You will get there. And that is one of the breaking it down into shades, into steps, into little increments is the best way to beat being stuck. All right. And it's the best way to gradually, consistently, deliberately, habitually to get yourself out of a mindset of being overwhelmed. So if you're overwhelmed, break it down into tiny, doable steps. And that will help you not be so immobilized or distracted or vulnerable to making poorer choices, which are probably a dead end. All right. All right. Because those poorer choices, the poorest choice is doing nothing. And remember, doing nothing gets you nothing and gets you nowhere. And that's not where you want to be. Any little bit that you can do incrementally is progress. And if it honestly is the best that you can do today, it's darn well good enough, despite what the voices say. Okay. 11, define the terms. All right. Why, when you label yourself as less than or some other negative term and you focus on your limitations, ask yourself, why would you do that? Really? What do you mean by those labels? And would you use those labels, all right, about anybody else? Really? And what kind of relationship would you have with those others if you did? And are you sullying the relationship you have with yourself? Are you? What are the repercussions of that on your mindset, on your energy? And you want motivation, and you think that self-beating up, self-deprecation, self-judgment, being mean to yourself, you think that's going to give it to you? No, it isn't. All right. It wasn't true then, and it isn't true now. And it has no place in today. Wherever it started, it has no place in today. You are worth as much on your worst day as you are on your best day. And the fact that you experience it differently is just a matter of mood and chemicals racing through your body. And you can be as competent as you want to be, as you're prepared to search for better answers for yourself. All right. 12. Stop the generalization, the overgeneralization. Life's whatever. Be specific. Success is found in specific positive actions. All right. And you don't need a whole slew of them. You just need them to build on one another slowly, gradually. And you will create your own reality. You create your own reality that way. Okay. There's something called the semantic method. And it's in the value of the word. So you substitute language that is less emotionally loaded. So when you find yourself thinking something that is emotionally detrimental or emotionally destructive or undermining, just stop and try substituting another less emotionally loaded word there. And you will find words are powerful. Language is powerful, particularly the internal one. It's subtle, the language and the words we use. Okay. Substitute something that is truthful, but gentle. Respectful, always respectful. Even when you're finding fault with yourself, all right, and you feel 100% it's warranted based on some activity, some event. A negative, derogatory, insulting, demeaning term for it is never accurate. What is the accurate? I own it. I own it. That I own that word. That is the value of what I've created. Okay. Reattribution. Reattribution is another method, and it's a good thing to do. Why? Because instead of blaming yourself for a problem, I want you to sit down and break it down into its component parts. Where did this start to go wrong and how? And you can then identify behavior patterns that you're more susceptible to, that you automatically go into, all right, without even really thinking. They become the path most often walked. And we do have behavior patterns. All right. So those behavior, what we do the most, remember, the most often is what we habituate. It is worth reattributing how we ended up in a situation we don't want to be in. Okay. And then there's always something you can do. All right. The acceptance paradox. This one's tough because when you really want a different outcome, acceptance can be a hard pill to swallow for some people. But just accepting that you're not perfect, you are not always entirely ready for the step you want to take. Maybe you do need to learn something more. Maybe you do need to practice something more. And I would respectfully suggest stop pulling your legs out from under you by the mean self-talk, by the self-criticism. Stop it. That's not helpful. It's not productive, and it's not true. If you're here trying to learn 15 ways that you can help yourself not go down the same thinking paths that end up someplace you don't really want to be again, then you're not lazy. You're not messy. You may be not well enough informed, and you may not be well enough practiced. So pick 2 of these strategies and play with them this week. Try them out. What are they again? I'm going to just read them before I sign off. Hold on. Braden can edit this. All right. Hold on. Where are we? All right. There's a bunch of them, isn't there? Identify the distortions. Where are the wows in your thinking, in your judgment, in your opinions of others and yourself? Try the straightforward approach. All right. The positive and the negative balance of life. Try the cost benefit. What does it give me? What does it cost me to do it? What does it give me? What does it cost me not to do it? Examine the evidence. All right. Wishful thinking is only going to end up in wishful thinking. All right. Examine the evidence. When you are negative thinking, remember what we tell ourselves. Largely influences the options we allow ourselves. So negative thinking is only going to end up in negative results. Try the survey method. If you have people you like, you trust, you respect, they don't get a vote. They don't get to decide. All right. But maybe their input, maybe their feedback might give you a broader view of how to approach something, or who never to ask for an opinion again. Try the experimental method. Break it down in small chunks. Try it. Try it the way I've suggested. Add your own layer of ideas on it. It probably will work better for you. Make it work. What do you need? Where is it? And how do you get enough of it to make enough of a difference? Double standard technique. So, are you tougher on yourself than you are on others? Are you more lenient and you make excuses for yourself where you wouldn't do that for others? There shouldn't be a double standard. All right. And please, if you're going to err on the side of kind, compassionate, understanding, accepting, perseverant. All right. The pleasure predicting method. When it's done, how good is it going to feel? When it's not done, how good is it going to feel? The vertical arrow. So if this negative thought is true, what does that lead to? What does that lead to? What does that lead to? And you'll see it leads to a hole. It doesn't lead out of anywhere. It leads to you being in a hole, feeling bad about yourself and what you've done. Shades of gray. Can't do the whole job. Denise talked about that. San talked about that. Leslie talked about that. Can't do the whole job. Break it down. Shades of gray. All right. Shades of gray. Closer, closer, closer. In little tiny chunks. In doable chunks. Define your terms. Don't throw labels at yourself. And what do those terms actually mean? And why? Why would you be unkind enough to use negative terms about yourself? Why would they be true? All right. Don't get caught up in generalizations. Okay. We are unique individuals. What specifically do you need? Where is it? And how do you get enough of it to make enough of a difference? And choose your words carefully. All right. Choose your words carefully. Be specific about what you are heading into doing and accomplishing. The reattribution. Okay. Remember that when you say to yourself, I can't, maybe you can't do, maybe you legitimately can't do what you've set out in your mind. But that does not mean that there isn't something that you can do. When you feel you can't do, change the question. What do I know 100% I can do? And build on can do, because there's on your worst days, all right, there is always, always, always something that you can do. All right. And if that's the best you can do on that day, good enough, but do it, and do it habitually. We'll see you next week, everyone. Take care. Have a great week.